This time, our time. One city, one club. We're back. The time is now.
Well, welcome, afternoon, everybody. It's Wednesday, and like I say, it's never rains till it pours in Newcastle. According to the reports, it's very cold up north. We're going to get into some of that information in a minute. Wynne will be with me at some point. Unfortunately, he's having some technical issues. So welcome, one and all, to NUFC Talk TV, where we'll be having a little bit of a deep dive into the news that's going around. So, like I say, before we get into the show, let's do the housework and then we'll crack on. So welcome to everybody that's watching across all the platforms. Thanks to everybody that works in the background. Don't forget, please, if you could help us out and just hit the like button. It's totally free. And also subscribe. Hit the bell. Obviously, we'll be coming on board with lots of live content. So if you hit the bell, you'll get notifications as soon as we go live. If you want to help us grow, you can support us by becoming a member. Again, choose whichever one that suits you, and then help us out that way. Once you're on board as a member, if you would like to join our league, our predictions league, then it's a small fee, and if you become top 6, you get a prize at the end of the season. You can also obviously ask a question as we go through. Put a Q in front of that question if you want us to shout it out. But again, it's not guaranteed. I've got lots of people in the chat that also wanted to be seen and heard. But if you want to guarantee it, then use the $sign. Follow up all the information and send us a super chat, and that'll guarantee that. And anybody that becomes a member or anybody that highlights, as in gives a membership out, will be highlighted and thanked. So we are. Simon Yorkshire, thank you so much for becoming a member. I saw that earlier on. So welcome on board, my friend. It's lovely to have you. Who have I got in there? Kenny, Jimmy's in there, Mason, Lee, Trolls is with us. Choppy's in there. Geordie Dan as normal. Trolls, Ian, it's Mason. Everybody's in there. Nice to have you all on board on this Wednesday. I was looking through a lot of what the lads have been saying on previous shows and things like that. And it seems very much at this present moment in time that we are in a bit of a pickle. And I must admit, Chris from Evermore, he put this on X, and it seems to be very much the way we are at the moment. You know, we've got two sides of the fence. Some sit on one side and agree with the process and they're happy to trust it. And then there's a majority of fans out there that we tend to scratch our heads at times and question, you know, what the hell is going on at the club. Now, I have written down a couple of questions that I wanted to throw out there and just get your opinions, if I may, because you know, at the end of the day, I mean, all the information that we've got, and I hate to think in today's age that we have to blame somebody, we have to point the finger at something, because to me, it's not just a singled out problem that I feel. I think there's obviously a number of issues going on behind the scenes at Newcastle at the minute, and this is what I believe. And like I say, I don't want to point the finger at a individual person. I think PIF have fixed valuations on obviously the type of players that Eddie Howe has looked at. It looks very much as though once we hit that marker, it doesn't seem as though we're going to go in with a further valuation. And I think a lot of that is down to the situation that we were in last summer with the PSR. I think it was a lesson learnt by a number of people. And again, whether that was one of the avenues that unfortunately led for Amanda Staveley and Mia to leave so abruptly. I'm not sure, but it seems as though they've been burnt. We've been burnt from as a squad. We've got a thinner squad now, and obviously we've lost a few more players to that squad that was depleted in the first place. So it seems to me as though PIF have come out, even though they have got a lot of money. It seems as though because of the amount of players we want in, they have looked at the PSR situation and dedicated a number of monies, if you like, in that pot for each and every position that is required from Eddie Howe. Again, this is only my take. There is nothing out there that says that this I'm wrong on this or right on this. But if you look at like a lot of the red flags, Eddie Howe seems very specific on the type of players that he wants. Now, he's been criticised heavily from a lot of fans about the type of targets that he's been going for, especially low balling when it comes to putting in a price. Now, the way I look at that is, I would imagine the majority of us are homeowners. We all see a property that we like, maybe out of our price range, but I'm sure, like myself, you've thought you'd throw yourself into the ring by putting an offer in, whether it gets accepted or not. Now, we all get frustrated when the offer gets knocked back, and it's a case of then, have you got any legwork? Have you got any room within your purse to manoeuvre? And it seems very much as though, like I say, Eddie's going in with a fixed set, and from that, it gives him very little room to scope to move elsewhere, to put that second bid in. And obviously, on top of that, we all know once the sharks enter the water, money's not an issue for them regarding wages. And I'm going to go on to that subject in a second. Then you go on to my third issue. It's the sporting director and the CEO. It seems a little bit chaotic at the moment. It seems, again, you look at what's happening behind the scenes there with some of the accusatory finger pointing towards Mitchell. Now, again, I have no facts on this. It's just what's being out there and written to a lot of the people out in Viewerland. And you look at it and you say, like, Mitchell comes in and he wants it's going to be his way or the highway type of plan, his first speech. And then you start looking at, we could have got Trafford for 25 million last year. And apparently that was poo-pooed by Mitchell for whatever reason. And then you obviously got the Isaac contract, which again seems to have been poo-pooed by Mitchell, saying that we're going to look at it again in the summer. And again, you've got to think as a player, and again, going on Eddie Howe's words, a player's career is very short. It makes you question whether we are at loggerheads behind the scenes because one's pulling in one direction and wants to be obviously a very much a solo operator. And you've got another one, and I'm going to say Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell, very much in the same vein, but both pulling in different directions and none of them really taking control of the issue. Now, for me, the person above them is the CEO. So why on earth has Darren Eales allowed this to continue? This should have been squashed at the first initial point. And like I say, if Mitchell had lost the respect of the players as early as the first meeting, because of how he was approaching things, then, you've got to question what the hell is going on at boardroom level. I like what Mitchell has done with the girls. I like what Mitchell's done with the youth side because, again, going forward, it's about being or having the vision. Even if the players that we've brought in haven't got an opportunity in the first team, it seems as though there's a few of them that have got value behind them. And that will give us, going down the road, down the next few seasons, a little bit of scope to move players on without it affecting the majority of first team issues. So, for me, it's pure profit, and I understand that vision from Mitchell. I still think the one person that this could have been, I suppose, sorted by is Darren Eales, being the boss on top of everybody. And again, this is only my thoughts, so I'd like to understand, and probably get a picture of you. And the final thing is obviously, again, pointing the finger at the Sharks, because without these PSR issues, we would have the same opportunity as Chelsea's, the Man City's, and we all question, we're never going to be in that pool unless we can go back to back on finishing in the Champions League. You've got to admit Eddie Howe's done an amazing job because he's got us every other year into the Champions League position. We failed in our second year. Not, I suppose nobody expected Manchester United to beat Manchester City in the FA Cup. But again, your reliance on other teams to get you through the door. And to a degree, we had to do exactly the same this season. Again, if Man U hadn't have beaten Villa, it could have been a totally different ballpark. So there is definitely issues there. But unless we become a team that can continue and have this continuity of finishing top five, obviously top four would guarantee it, but top five, we're never going to gap the bridge between us and the rest of the Sharks around us, and that to me is the biggest concern. And I honestly believe we should be making some inroads into why we were affected this way. Now, I know PIF have got the money. We know that they could back us doing anything. But while we are under these obviously regulatory constraints, the issue now of contracts, and I'm going to go on to the subject of Isaac next, because obviously we're still not sure of what's going on there. And we have got problems, and it's problems because of wages. At the end of the day, we know, what happens usually when players come in and start getting questioned about, I'd like you to play for me. And, we've seen that with Liverpool. You've only got to look at, and this was reported in 442, I think it was. No, it wasn't. Bear with me a second, because I've just seen, I've put it up here somewhere. I hope I haven't lost that. I've just seen that Liverpool have put in a couple of requests. If you think Ekatike is going to Liverpool, and I think he's been offered 250,000. They've just got Wirtz, and he's on 370,000. So when you're in a situation where Isaac is, he's going to start obviously looking at his current situation and say, if I move to Liverpool, I'm going to be on £300,000 a week. Why can't I get that here? If these guys are planning to be, the next big thing, winning Premier Leagues, winning or competing high levels of the Champions League, why can I not get that here? So it does feel very much as though he's holding us to ransom at this present moment in time. And, we can all sit here and say he's got a contractual obligation until 28, because that's fact. The biggest problem is, as we've seen with Gyökeres, a lot of the work that goes behind the scenes is a player that doesn't want to play for you anymore for whatever reason, because his dreams are elsewhere. You're not going to get the same player wearing a black and white shirt. That's my issue. We saw it to a degree, and I said it last year, and I've stated this season, the start of this season, I hope the issues that Anthony Gordon had last year when he got tapped up doesn't run on anymore. And again, those rumours, even with Anthony Gordon going to Liverpool, haven't left us. So there's still a lot of a saga, if you like, to deal with. And I don't know at this present moment in time where Isaac Heads is. I mean, like I said, the reports out there saying, he's training on his own because of a thigh strain. And apparently that's the reasons, or one of the reasons, why Eddie Howe didn't play him versus Celtic. He'd got some, but again, Eddie Howe didn't mention nothing about injury. It was more to do with protecting him from the noise. And then, he's saying about this thigh strain. It gets scanned and there's no strain there from the scan. So again, is this him trying just to push himself afar and segregate himself from the rest of the playing team? Because you also know, when you're obviously being sent to Coventry and you're training alone, and I know Hall was with him. He wasn't actually alone, because Hall was doing his hard yards on the grass as well at the same time. We do look at the situation of, is he putting a wedge between himself and the rest of the team? I mean, the proof will be in the pudding, whether he's on the plane, I suppose. And by all accounts, from what I've read recently, then he will be, or he's expected to be on that plane traveling to Singapore. Just going to have a quick look at some of your comments before I move on. Good afternoon, says Simon Yorkshire. The process is frustrating, but I still retain hope that we will get a striker and centre back at least. And I think, like I said, we've got to look at the squad going forward. To me, it's a squad of two ends. There's an aging end and a very youthful looking end. So we've got a lot of experience in with the youth. There's lots of rumours out there that there was somebody that was going to come in for even Tino. There was talk of Man City potentially putting the 11th hour bid in for Tino Livramento. And now it looks like there's going to be contractual talks with him and extend them at Newcastle. So that's interesting. What else is there in the chat? Sorry, being on my own, I don't get a chance to have a look at this. We're selling, then make it up to 300k wages. And Darren, like I said, the biggest problem for me when we start doing this is the wage structure is gone. Whatever happens at Newcastle, and this is potentially players that are actually coming through the door as well. When you're in a situation where you have got one player demanding 300,000, the next player that comes through the door of quality will want 200,000 or higher than 200,000. Then when it comes to contractual negotiations with some of our star players, our Tonalis, our Brunos, if you like, our Gordons, even though Gordon has just obviously had an increment to his, there's going to be players there that will then want north of 200,000 because they feel the benefit. Because without them in the squad, who are we as a team? So this next thing will be, for me, a knock-on effect. It'll be a domino effect for others coming and knocking on the door. May not be just yet, but especially if things don't go right, because there is nothing worse than players not being mentally up for it. And I think that is the other thing when you look at players that have come on board or we have bid for and they have gone elsewhere because they're a bigger club. There is obviously a bigger wage structure elsewhere that can be offered, and according to Jamie O'Hara, it's too cold up in the northeast for continental players to come and play, which is totally BS. Now, part of the segment that he said, you can throw your hat on, if you like. It was more to me it was more to me like, your family. I think the only truth behind what he said was, how are the family going to be when they move to the northeast? If you haven't got a group of friends and things like that. Now, we all know that people that have moved over. Bruno's moved from Brazil. I mean, obviously J7 was here anyway. The families that are already here will welcome anybody with open arms. We've already heard from Malanga about how he's been made to feel, as though he's felt he's been here for years. So I don't get that. I don't get that. And I think Dean Saunders, obviously, when he stopped him in his tracks about that. I mean, like I say, there is a little bit you could throw your hat on and say, yeah, families may struggle, but it won't be the end all. At the end of the day, these are players' careers, and the spouses sometimes get pulled pillar to post. So it's part and parcel of a footballer's life. So I did find that very hard to swallow, with us being in the northeast. But I do understand that there is potential that London is a nicer place to live, if you want your bags pickpocketed and stuff like that. It's certainly a warmer climate down there. But apart from that, there ain't a lot you can actually say. But to cut the bull, and that's all it is, to cut the bull, it's wages. These players are only going to the big clubs because they're offered them the wages, and it's something that Newcastle can't do without knackering the PSR. And that's why I said we either look at players coming in, or we look at just giving high wages out there and stay with the squad that we've got. So that's the situation that Eddie Howe is in at the moment. It's ridiculous. Where are we? Trolls is saying, hi, Gary. How are you, buddy? Hidiester's in. Magda Bates is in the room. Jay's in there. I always enjoy Gary and Win debates, disagreements, but with a lot of depth. Thanks, Simon. If that Everton story doing the rounds is true, only 61 people turned up to the opening of the club shop. That's good. I'm sure Shelley will be happy with that. Who's in the chat as well. Hi, Hells. Nice to see you on board, Sean. Jan, who? Afternoon, peeps. Michael, afternoon, Gary. All in the chat. So it really is funny how we look at the current climate and what's out there. Now then, lads and lasses, being linked with every man and dog today. Yeah, Mark, you're absolutely right, buddy. It's like I said, if we had a tenner for every player that we've been linked to, we wouldn't need to go to work. It's mental, like I say, when you start looking at the current climate and where we are really in a tricky situation. I am somewhere in the middle as this process, if probably inevitably building up from the Ashley days. But again, we look at this commercial problem that we have, and this isn't a problem that again, it's not as if I'm new to stating this. We've had the problem because of the commercial business that we've had previously set by Ashley, and it's never going to go away, and we can poo-poo PSR until we blue in the face. It's the reasons why we are where we are at this present moment in time, and it's the reasons why we are just Newcastle at this present moment in time, because we've been screwed over for such a long time by previous owners. These guys can only fill the void for so much until and again we can pinpoint certain areas where we haven't been successful. Training ground sponsors, training shirt sponsors, things like that. We're always going to nitpick on. But there seems to be a lot of misguided information out there in the journal world. There seems to be a lot of issues going on behind the scenes that Newcastle have to address to get us back to where we were before. And even when you listen to Eddie Howe's comments, there is something not right at Newcastle as we speak. What's happened in the past with Nixon, Andy Howe, and the like, they haven't really had many a bad target that's come through the doors. And I want to know, because we when we went out there for the likes of Botman, Tonali, we were looking in Europe and we did well. So why change? Why change the ethos of what happened and worked so well by getting 90 odd percent success rates in the market to going to just hitting premier proven players, lowballing, and then saying, that's it. I'm going to move down the tracks. It does get frustrating, and I hear that, and that's why when I looked at this, it was absolutely bang on what Chris had put out there. It is, we are fans of Newcastle United that are literally split two sides of the fence, and it is a shame that is our current situation. And I would. Oh, here he is. Are you in now? Can you hear me? Oh, you're low, but I can hear you. You can't hear me. Oh, Wynn's in the building. As I look, just to prove the point, he is with me, but bless him, he can't hear the thing. He's having major technical issues. Do you want me to do it with Braille?
Hey, I can hear you. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Here he is. It's nice to have you on board, buddy, eventually.
Wow, what a carry on.
Yeah, well, you've had Chris helping you out in the background. Chris,
he's had control of my computer.
Yeah. It's been. I don't know how much you've listened to, mate, because I know you've been having issues.
Honest, I haven't listened to any of it because we've been frantically working behind the scenes there.
Yeah, well, like I said, the guys have.
But I can see the cartoon there, which sums everything up perfectly, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I've put up my four reasons for us in the current situation, and again, I'll go through these quickly. PIF have fixed valuations and scared of PSR mess. Manager very specific on who he wants. Sporting director and CEO chaos and PSR restrictions. That's my four.
What was your first one?
PIF have fixed valuations on players. Yeah. This is where I believe
that's what I believe the problem.
Where we current lie. I mean, again, I believe that he has a pot of money to play with, but I don't believe that he is willing to throw all of that money on one specific target, because I think the same as we all think, the squad is thin and needs a few bodies in.
Just to clarify that, then, what you believe is that PIF have said you've got that much money available.
Yeah.
As opposed to PIF deciding upon the individual valuation of each target.
Yeah, I think when you look at, if I was, say I'm Eddie Howe and I'm coming up to you now and I say, listen, I've got these four areas that I want to improve on, but my headroom, my ceiling is 180 million I can spend because of PSR. So, what you end up doing there, and again, for me, I think Mitchell's leaving in June, end of June, seems very strange for me. And I think that was another way of Mitchell putting a spanner in the works. And I'm with Chris. I listened to you guys yesterday, and it seems very much as though when Mitchell and Howe obviously didn't go hand in harmony, as much as they tried to work together, it seems very much as though they were pulling in totally different directions. And it just seems very, very strange for me. You can't tell me that Mitchell didn't know that he wanted out earlier on in the season. Why wait till June when we need him most to negotiate deals to turn his back on Newcastle United?
Well, I don't think Mitchell knew for certain until the back end of May, when Eddie got Champions League, won the Cup, and collared the chairman on the pitch. And whatever had been simmering in the background until then, I firmly believe that the meeting, if you remember, Craig Hope did his post-match review from outside St James's Park.
Yeah.
And he said, at this very moment in time, Eddie Howe is upstairs, right there, with the chairman. And I've got no doubt at all that that meeting was a frank... I'm not saying that this all happened on the pitch, of course not. But I'm saying when they went upstairs, immediately after the match, there were frank discussions, and I believe that those discussions were along the lines of Eddie basically giving him an ultimatum. You know, I can't work with this guy. So if you want him, that's fine. But if you do, sorry, I'm away. And the chairman saying, whoa, hang on. What if we get rid of him? If you get rid of him, that'll be fine. And it's also noticeable that with the appointment of Suds yesterday, or the day before, whenever it was, in the official welcome statement from Newcastle United, it said that Suds will be reporting to a new sporting director, not director of football, sporting director. And I believe that Eddie has made it clear that he wants to be top dog, which is what all the keyboard warriors are up in arms about. They don't think he should have carte blanche.
Well, it's like I said, it's hard not to have some control when your background, your backroom staff is so disrupted. You know, somebody has to make inroads in and decision making.
Yeah,
when you haven't got people above you in the situation where you want them to do the job for you. So, who else do you rely on?
The problem is we haven't got. I believe it's absolutely right that Eddie should be the guy. As far as I'm talking about, as far as the first team squad is concerned, he should be the guy identifying or deciding, should I say, not necessarily identifying, but deciding who he wants to be in that squad. Now, obviously, you've got the scouting network and recruitment team who are going to probably go and give him most of the options that he has available to him. He's obviously going to watch football himself and all of that, but he's not out and about at a million different places watching Fred and John and Harry playing for, Baker allotment. That's the recruitment team's job. That's the chief scout's job, whatever. And then they come. Obviously, he's going to see players on a weekly basis who are in the Prem. I don't know how many foreign games he watches. I would suspect not many because he's such a detailed man. He'll be wanting to get everything ready for the next week with a team that Newcastle are playing. And two teams in most cases now, 2 games a week. So I suspect that that's where the majority of his time is devoted. But what I'm saying is when he's given the options, he should definitely be the one to say, right, I want him. Now, my problem is that I think, and this is me having it both ways as far as some of the bedwetters are concerned, I think that decision is being hamstrung by the fact that PIF are determining what they are, as opposed to giving them a pot, which you've said, you've got 180 million there, do with it what you will, because you can have no complaints if that were the case. I think what's happening is he's going and saying, right, because it makes no logical sense to me at all that Eddie Howe wouldn't want Ekechiki squad, for example. And does it matter to him if he's paying 80 million or 100 million euros? No, it doesn't. So he would just pay, he'd say, yeah, get him. Pay the 100 million. So I believe it's PIF who are saying, no, that player there, we've got our sources, we reckon he is worth X and no more.
It's a good point here from Siu Hang Long. Welcome on board. I haven't seen you before. Nice to have you. Sadly, the fact is Mitchell is not good at all. If he said Tino and Hall were as overpaid when we signed him, then he would never deserve to be our DOF. This is what I said. There's so much.
Well, we've heard this. Listen, Mitchell came with almost impeccable credentials. You know, if you looked at his recruitment, everybody points to Son and Sane and all the rest of them. Mane, sorry. His recruitment and his work with Pochettino at Spurs and Southampton was admirable. And then he went to Monaco and he drastically improved everything about that club from the base upwards. He was working from a small capital base, but his youth recruitment and if you looked at the graph that came out at the time about the number of academy players in Monaco, the minutes that they then went on to play for the first team, under Mitchell's guidance, that went from, it was something like 200 minutes to 19,000 minutes that the youth team, the academy projects contributed to the first team success. And again, as I say, that was all admirable, and I was very, very happy when he came.
Thanks, Barney, for coming a member, buddy.
But,
and Chris has just told me to thank Ian for last night's super chat.
Yeah, Ian last night, in amongst all of the furore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was a lot being spoken about.
We didn't get to put you on. And actually, what Ian commented about then was the fact that I'd said they were leaving on Friday the 27th. And he said 27th, the
25th
is a
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
So because of course they play that first match on the 27th, but I did say they left on Friday. So
yeah,
so
they're flying on my birthday, mate. That's when they're flying out.
Oh, happy birthday! Well, never mind. Well, anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, indeed.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch. So like I say, I was quite happy when we appointed Paul Mitchell. I thought he was a definite improvement on Dan Ashworth, and so I was really happy when we appointed him. But now we've heard about what he was like when he came in, because I think what's happened is he's had an ego boost. He's got this job. And he's come in and said, I'm going to be Billy Big Bollocks, da-di-da-di-da. He didn't know the staff. He didn't get to know the staff's name, the staff members' names. He you know, by all accounts now we're hearing, he's just turned around to Isaac and said, no, son, you're on a 3-year contract. You're stuck with it. Or words to that effect. He was he'd be condemned as unfit for purpose. The transfer strategy that would had hitherto, which had brought in, by the way, Botman, Bruno, Isaac. Yeah, this was and Eddie was very quick to call that out when he said, hang on a minute, I'm very, very happy with our transfer, recruitment policy. So don't you come in here and tell us it's crap, because patently it isn't crap. And if it is crap, that crap system has resulted in us finishing Champions League twice and winning our first trophy for 7 years. That's how crap that is. And so he got off on completely the wrong foot, and he kept on doing it. Now, the problem there was, for me, again, 2020 hindsight, his big ally was Darren Eales. And Darren Eales was the main man who called Amanda out for getting us in the financial pickle that she'd got us into. And Amanda was Eddie's man. Oh, Amanda was Eddie's woman. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
I'm going to say, that's another rabbit hole.
Amanda was Eddie's ally. Eales was very, very definitely Mitchell's ally.
Yeah.
And therein hung the tail. All of a sudden, we had a club that wasn't pulling in the same direction, that wasn't doing everything the way we had been doing it, and it started to go off the rails. And Eddie said, in his own mind to me, quite rightly, I've had enough of this. If this is what it's going to be, I'm away. And by the way, he could walk virtually anywhere he wanted.
Yeah, Tom MC, another name I haven't seen before, so welcome, Tom. In the 13 years that Paul Mitchell has worked in various roles, Southampton, Spurs, RB, Monaco, 10 managers have lost their jobs before Mitchell moved on. It is an interesting fact, that one. Thanks for throwing us that one, Tom. Listen, there has to be some movement. Cherry Thomas, thank you, mate, for
Terry.
becoming a member. Helps us out massively. You do get to that point of understanding, and Chris Hoskins has put in, or Ginger Hoskins, I should say, has put in a chat about what a sporting director is. We all know the role of the sporting director, and obviously a similar thing with the technical director, just different variants of a similar job. And there should be some relationship, even though the control is in the DOF. That's his role there. But at the end of the day, the only person that does get the sack is the coach. It's never
Correct.
the DOF, So there has to be a little bit of. Can you read out my super chat, please, Gary? Yeah, thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
You're an absolute star, buddy. But there you go. I've read it out, mate. For me, it's a case of can you ever get in a situation where we've been now with the Mitchell and Eddie Howe saga? To me, it's like bloody EastEnders, Coronation Street. It was more talk about what was happening behind the scenes than what was happening on the bloody field of play, which is where we want to be. We want to be, involved in a football club and support a football club that are reaching the goals that we want. And that's what I said. You put Eddie Howe on a pedestal, which he deserves. There's very few managers, I think, would have achieved what we've achieved over the 4 years that he's been at the helm.
I think the only manager who's come close to Eddie for me in the last 5 seasons is Glasner at Crystal Palace.
Right. I mean, there's worthy mentions. We know like Thomas Frank. I think
Thomas Frank's done a great job.
Great
absolutely.
job. And again, you're talking about buttons, working with buttons regarding.
Buttons, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll retract that. I'll put Frank in that same category as the three of them.
But that's what I'm saying. I think the biggest problem for us is I think Eddie Howe has been transfixed on his 22 black book with the names and things. And lots of people in the comments have been saying about, we could have gone and got Ekatike for 13, 14 million. I think he went for 16 in the end from PSG. The biggest problem is because of how we hit the market in the early days under Amanda. Unfortunately, we didn't have the finances when we needed the finances to go in and pick these bargain players up. And that was the problem, to the point where obviously we start to sell our youth in Anderson, who, according to rumours, if he has another season like he's just had at Forest, he's probably going to be valued at around 80 million. And obviously Minte, who again, hit the ground running at Brighton without even wearing a black and white shirt. So, for me, it was a case of we have got to get the relationship. Whoever comes into this role, there has to be a relationship. And I absolutely agree with what you say. Eddie needs to have some say in the player that he wants to get, or there needs to be, as we do when we have speculation of players coming in, we'll put a like for like on there and see the type of player. Is it a like for like player, or is this player going to bring us something different? And I put that on regarding Wissa in our chat when we were going for Ekatike. There is even though they're both central strikers, there is a bit of a difference between both players.
Yeah. We've got John O'Hare in the chat. Hello, John.
Hi, John.
It's just a shame that Eddie has to put up with so much shit going on above him. He's got enough to handle just keeping the man management going. Yeah, well, that's the thing. And what we've got to have, yes, we need a structure above Eddie to, he's saying, right, that's the player I want. And we need a negotiation team who can go in with authority and make decisions. I think right at this moment in time, we haven't got that. We've got Steve Nixon and Andy Howe doing the nitty-gritty. But when it comes to saying yes or no to that offer or that contract or that condition, they are then having to go back to PIF and say, right, we can do it by this, we can do it by that. And that's where I think they're being told, no, that's as far as we go. We're not having our pants taken down. No. Which, again, I agree, to a degree, I agree with.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Because the minute you overpay for one player, in the position we're in, you're going to be overpaying for every player. And we can't afford it.
No, and that's exactly the same situation. Like I said, we are, to a degree, potentially being held to ransom with these demands now. And you've either got to ask yourself, as a club, and I said it at the start, for us to be anywhere near, there you go, Centurion 84, I agree with Eels and Mitchell wanted to push Howe out and bring Posh Marino in. Undermined Howe in transfer last season, and now again by quitting. Yeah, thank you very much, buddy, for that super chat.
I think in the back of PIF's mind, up until he won the trophy and qualified for the Champions League again, PIF would have been quite happy to have Mitchell, DOF, and bring, they can then shake hands with Eddie, say, thanks for what you've done, move on. And they wanted a Mourinho or a Pochettino or whoever to come in and replace him.
Yeah. I mean, as much as, like I say...
I think that's changed now. That changed when Mitchell went.
Yeah.
But I still think that they're kind of still reticent to say, right, go on, get what you want.
Yeah. You see, for me, it's like I said, I think there's an element of blame. Apologies. There's dogs going absolutely mental around my house for some unknown reason. For me, there's an element of blame across the board. I'm not going to single one out to say that he's at fault or, she's at fault. I think there's a togetherness of problems here because it seems to have all bottlenecked in the same season or at the end of one season going into the other season. It's crescendoed together, and that's put us where we are at this present moment in time. And it doesn't matter who you go for. And I made an analogy about, pouring a bid on a house that I can't afford.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop me from pouring a bid in to see if I can literally get it. If they're willing to sell and they need to sell, sometimes you can fall lucky by throwing this.
Well, as I say,
ball.
if you put a bid in, at least it lets the player know that you're interested.
It also lets your team know that you're trying to develop the squad.
Yeah, and it also, can you turn that player's head so that he suddenly becomes disgruntled and
Well, it certainly seems to have worked on Wissa,
angles
according to
for
the
a move.
reports. You know what I mean? And that's something I'm going to come on to in a second.
Yeah.
I just need to go through some of these stars because we have got
Can I
quite
just
a few.
say though that when at the very time when we first went in for Ekatike, he chose PSG, and everybody says who could blame him. It was only when he moved from PSG, away from PSG, that he went for the 16 million. At that moment in time, not only did we not have any money, but if you remember, we also had, before this season with Leipzig started, we had a situation where Callum Wilson got, whatever he got, 18 goals, and Isaac, we had the two of them as fit as they've ever been, and they were both, they were both firing then. That was when he moved the last time.
Yeah.
So we weren't really looking for another striker then. It was only when Callum got more and more injuries that we suddenly needed another striker.
Yeah, but I think that's where the
And then
frustration.
coincidentally, Isaac stopped being made of glass and gave us almost a full season.
Yeah, and I think that's the frustration, though. You look at the Wilson, and it's that holding on to players that maybe should have moved when there were availability to move, and unfortunately, again, you go to money constraints. It's a case of who can we get better for the money that we're going to get from an aging player. Now, by all accounts, the reports that I read this morning, Wilson's talking to West Ham.
Yeah.
The
West Ham fans aren't happy about it, by the way.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I said. Unfortunately, wherever Wilson goes now, if he stays within the Premier League, there's going to be disgruntled fans because, they've heard and seen themselves exactly what they're going to get. But I mean, as you rightly said before, if he does go and get a goal and gets his head literally out of his backside, he can go on to get you 10 plus goals a season. I don't know whether he'll ever hit the heights of 20 goals a season again.
If he stays fit, no reason why he won't, as far as I'm concerned.
But it'll be interesting to see what happens and how that develops, to be fair. Anyway, let's go on to some of these stars.
Honestly, I really look forward to him. If he can stay fit, just showing some of these doubters what he could do.
Ian put in, we need better communication from the club.
Absolutely.
That's half the problem. I think that's another area where we've got an issue. David Knight, you're spot on, Gary. Looks like the recruitment team have delusions of grandeur regarding signings. What happened to Eddie being able to improve players? But you know what? I do. There's an element to that where this Eddie can make a piece of coal look like a diamond. With any player's improvement, and again, I'll go to Elanga, who's just joined us, it has to come 50-50. A coach can give you so much, but it has to be inbuilt into the player to want to improve. If that player is one of these players that works on the basis that, I'm going to have a good game if the game goes my way, rather than pulling his bloody socks up and just digging in, even if he isn't having a good game. And we've seen far too many players in a Newcastle shirt, especially this last season, where we were very in and out of games, especially at the start of the season. You never knew what Newcastle team was going to turn up. Very indifferent at times. And it just shows you sometimes when the going gets tough, you do need a number of battlers within your squad to dig yourself out of an issue. And that's where, even though I've been one of his critics, Harvey Barnes, for me, I took my hat off last season because he did get us out the mire a couple of times with his goals, coming on off the bench to the point where, he got a start ahead of Gordon. And that's what we need. We need players that can come into the side and change the way we are or the way we started, because that's something that has been lacking in this club for a long time now. Game changers coming off the bench, and that's where, and that was what we were talking about previously when I said it's not a case of us just bringing in Alanga and Cordero now. We've actually lost players. So that depth of squad, even though there weren't, major fixings within the squad, they're still squad team. And they were still able to come on board and fill a void at a gap that needed filling for injuries, suspensions, and alike. So we certainly do need bodies coming in, and I think that's going to happen. I just don't think it potentially is going to be overnight. Jay has said Eddie Howe is the best man to manage this club, but we must reorganise other positions and improve off pitch. We are an experienced growing up pains. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
That's a really good point of that one as well. Mark Todd, we ran out of steam last year and just squeezed Champions League. With the additional games, I just can't see us achieving it again.
It ain't going to be easy.
Absolutely not. And I think that's the other point, isn't it?
Unless
Again,
we're winning,
we talk
of
about.
course.
Well, obviously, Shelley, Toffee Blue, win. Have you been celebrating the Lionesses' win last night? You seem very enthusiastic.
Didn't even watch it. Not interested one little bit.
Yeah, it's not women's. I had it on in the background while listening to the lads online.
There was a ludicrous meme or something, whatever you call them, put in the forum today that some bird in the team would easily play for the men's team. This is the same team that got beat 6 by some Swiss youth team.
No, it was the Switzerland international ladies that got beat by the under-15s.
Oh, right, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I am not going to sit here and say that there is a massive void between men's and ladies' team, but it is getting better. It is getting better, and like I say, they just
Martin
need the support.
in there from the Mancunian way. Give them a look if anybody's interested. They're good channel. As an outsider, I totally agree. This is not why I'm putting it up, just because he agrees with me. As an outsider, I totally agree with Win. And I think PIF are losing heart now. Seem to have given up. Such a shame. Yeah, because
I mean that was a question that like I say, are queer. I think it's more the fact that they are scared of what happened previously, and that's why I put it down. This fixed valuations and the PSR mess that we were in, because it just makes a mockery of where the club are at, and I'm sure they're frustrated at what's going on in the boardroom as much as we are.
Yeah, but I don't think they've done enough in terms of, flog the women's team.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't get anything for
but
our
again,
women's team.
I am caveating all of my PIF criticism until, and Martin's just reminded me, of course, when the final ruling happens with PIF and the Man City 115 charges, if that comes down in favour of Manchester City, then all bets are off, because I then fully expect PIF to come in and do what they thought they were going to be able to do when they bought the club in the first place, which is to hide billions of pounds at it and do an Abramovich, do a UAE, do a Qatar at PSG, open the checkbook and get on with it.
You see, I am in the same vein as others. If they were that disillusioned by what's going on, and it must be disheartening, because they do want to be up there with the best in the Premier League. Yeah, they do want to be there. And like I say, it has to be frustrating for them too. If they certainly wouldn't be putting up front the money. I mean, if we'd have got Ekatike through the door, as was mentioned by somebody in the chat there, I just saw screen up, we wouldn't have put what potentially would have been a club record bid for Ekatike. Yeah, so you have to look at it from both ways. It's something that needs to be addressed, and Martin's put in there why Aramco going to Spurs. Well, they've obviously got a deal over the line, and this is what I said. For us to be anywhere, it's a great achievement for us winning the Carabao Cup, but it is only a Carabao Cup. What we have to do to get these big sponsors is have a commitment to achieving back-to-back seasons of being Champions League providers and being involved domestically, Premier League, and being involved domestically in our cups. And once we can prove that we can challenge seasonal every year, we will start to see the sponsorships rolling in. This present moment in time, it does feel very much we are being drip fed by likes of Adidas and things like that, who aren't paying us anywhere near what they pay other teams, because we aren't.
Puma have just signed a £100 million deal with Man City.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. These are the guys that are on there all the time. They've built a squad, and they're involved in the Champions League, the latter stages.
But the Premier League have made it their business to prevent us doing exactly what they did.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I said. I don't blame anybody else apart from, unfortunately, the cartel that shut the door on us. Because without that, out there in Viewerland, that we would be bringing in the same type of capital, the same type of players that the Man Cities did, the Liverpools have done in the past, the Blackburns have done when they won it. All these, and when again, quite rightly saying, you only ever win anything if you're willing to hit the wage bills, hit the transfer markets with big value signings. So you can point the finger at Paul Mitchell, you can point the finger at Eddie Howe, but the only thing that's stopping us being a big club now is unfortunate. Yeah, a big club is unfortunately the restrictions above us.
And the only thing that's stopping us being a big channel is the fact that we've got 636 people watching live right now, and we've only got 108 likes. So jump out the chat for 3 seconds, hit the like button,
on board,
please, and help us grow.
Yeah. Lee McFarlane, here's one for you. When does Champions League money come in? After each game, every 3 months, end of competition. Surely we have that money to factor in.
Well, that came in last year.
I was going to say that was already already been spent. I think.
Came in last year. That's gone. That boy, yeah. That's gone.
Jay, the fan base desperately deserves communication, though a new appointee like Amanda going forward. Yeah. You see, everybody seems to.
That's one thing that she was exceptional at.
Yeah, she was.
Communicating with the fans.
Darren Lee, I don't believe for a second. Howe wants to be top dog in transfers. Mitchell signs there from day one. He didn't hit the ground running. He fell out with the staff from day one. And I think, like I say, it seems there's lots more coming out about
it's gradually it's being drifted out. What and not just from one source, but from several sources, and not just one bit of the club that he fell out with, but multiple bits.
Multiple, yeah. Iniesta saying the opposite. It's a pity that Eddie didn't give Mitchell a chance. They could have been a dynamic, powerful duo.
It takes two to tango, sadly.
Yeah, and that's where I said that's where we are at this present moment in time. And to kind of phrase, or maybe Mitchell's angle was, I thought you had more money available to spend, and unless you sell a big player to release wriggle room, I can't make this work.
Well, who was advocating?
Really good avenue, that one.
I think that was Jeff Owen that advocated, saying we'll have to sell a crown jewel. Well, that's worked slightly, folks. We've jumped from 106 to 132.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
So
keep it
going.
Thank
you very much. But keep it going. Keep it going.
And Jack Sparrow, I think after 2 SDs, we have identified a new SD, but it comes with caveats, i.e., get me this guy, that guy, have this structure so I have a buffer between me and the manager. And again, it's like I said, we're in a strange situation because it's usually the DOF that brings in the coach.
Yeah.
and I think that's what was being led to before under the Marino and Poch discussion. Where this time, because obviously Eddie Howe was bought in by the previous DOF, well, not so much a DOF, but Amanda Staveley. It seems as though, again,
Well, that time, not only did we not have a DOF at that time, we didn't even have a CEO.
CEO, exactly. That's the problem. We've seemed to have bolted the bloody gate after the horse has gone to a degree. So that's what I said. We seem to be a little bit topsy turvy, and again, because of the success of Eddie Howe and what he's achieved over his tenure, it seems as though he has created himself a little bit of leeway regarding what he does, and what we do need, like we said, we keep saying, we've got to have somebody in the top order that can bang heads together. And I think, again, if you're going to point individuals, I think Darren Hills has got a lot to answer for when it comes to these two being at loggerheads, because he's above them. He's above these two in the pecking order. So there's got to be some communication between them three to try and, well, it's gone now, but I mean, whoever comes in next, there has to be a common ground between the DOF, the technical director now that we've got, and the coach to say where we're going forward.
There must be some argy-bargy going on in the chat, because PD's saying PD is definitely not a Sunderland fan, because I don't love Sunderland fan, because I don't. So I'm assuming, PD, you must have put in a comment in the chat and somebody's responded by calling you a Sunderland fan, and you're saying Sunderland fan just because I don't love Howe. This is how to silence people. Like, I won't comment then. But I'm getting angry at the no signings, and if you are happy with that, then fine. Nobody's happy with the no signings, PD.
No, and keep on commenting, PD. It is a strange one. I certainly think it's certainly something that we need to be. Yanu, again, this is what we were saying, what you guys were talking about yesterday. Why were we not looking to recruit Ekatike last season when he left PSG? Because we had Wilson. Why didn't we try and sign Ekatike at the start of this window? Because we offered Wilson a new contract. And I think it's this frustration thing about a little bit of loyalty. But if Eddie Howe has only got a pot full of money, then he knows that he's got to go and splash out on several positions. By keeping Wilson, even if he becomes third choice striker, doesn't necessarily on a pay-per play, which was offered. Yeah, that's what he turned down, exactly. And I understand that, because at the end of the day, who wants to sit in the background and probably not even be part of the squad on match days and not get paid for doing so? If he can get some money some way, then fair play to him going and looking elsewhere. But at the end of the day, are we better or worse off now Wilson has gone? Because he's gone for nothing. So we're not better off. In actual fact, it's left us in the mire because we are desperate.
We're a man down, but
yeah, we are desperate for a striker.
On the basis that he never played anyway, is the argument that most people will give. So.
Yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, like I said,
similarly with Sean Longstaff, who's also gone. Well, it didn't matter because he was never getting the game anyway. And when he did come off the bench, when people would argue when either of them came off the bench, the side was worse for it. I don't think there was any instances last year. Somebody will come in and give me a one where it did happen, but I can think of very few instances last year where we made changes that had any positive effect at all.
Yeah.
As soon as you were taking one of your big names off and replacing them, it was invariably by someone that reduced the
I mean,
performance of the team.
Like I said, it's easy to try and for us just to sit here and talk about a subject that we have really no information on. We get fed dribs and drabs from journos, and like I say, we don't know whether it's BS or not. And that's what I sometimes get frustrated when I read, people's opinions on where the blame lies, because at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's an opinion, and that's why sometimes I can't fathom out as a fan, why we should point the finger of blame on one individual, but it seems to me as though it's across the board. We have problems.
The board being the opposite word.
Absolutely. Just going on to other news. Talks are now that we are concentrating on giving Tino an extended contract for another 6 years.
Sorry, Martin.
And being part of the squad for longevity. Even though, like I said earlier, it does seem very much as though Man City and Pep Guardiola have their eye on him. Newcastle obviously are aware of the current situations and what's happened to certain individuals within the squad already when the bigger clubs come and knock on the door. So again, they're looking at giving him or getting him to be one of the top earners at the club, according to reports, with a 6-year contract.
Well, you know what's funny? Nobody has yet reported on Lewis Hall's new contract.
No.
It's never come anywhere since we signed him permanently. His annual salary is still reportedly $6,000 a week. If you look anywhere, it's $6,000 a week.
It's shocking, isn't it, when you think about it?
Till 28.
Yeah. It is shocking.
But I don't believe that can be the case. I'm sure he must be getting paid more than that. He's got to be, surely.
Yeah, Pont Mags is got a good point here. If we got 150 million for Isaac, I honestly wouldn't trust the current setup to spend it wisely or efficiently at all. Would be 100 million bid for John McGinn or something like that. You see,
who's he referring to as the current setup?
Well, obviously the Andy Howe and like Nixon, I would imagine. And like I said, the thing with it is, these are the same team that got in the stars that we're playing with today. That's supposed to be the best midfield in the Premier League.
And the best striker.
And the best striker, yeah. So, like I say,
and the best two young fullbacks.
You have to. It's just frustration. I understand that. Like I said,
when people point
their fingers. Yeah, it is just frustration that people just throw things towards it. And like I said, it's present moment in time. If you look at the players that Eddie Howe, and I understand the frustration when it comes to why lowball a player. But like I said, unless you put your hat in the ring, you could be lucky that one of these big players come your way. The biggest problem we have is we haven't got the wage bill to go above them. Like I said at the start, Wirtz has come on at 370. Ekatike going to Liverpool, 250,000. You're not going to reach them targets. You're not going to give them that in wages. And like I said, we've got a star striker on our midst, and apparently, by all accounts, we are going to get nowhere near the 300,000 that he's demanding. So what do you offer him, and how do you offer him that? So it's going to be an interesting one going forward. What else was I going to?
I've just gone on Capology right now for Lewis Hall, and according to that, he's on $7,000 a week with no bonuses.
No. Here's one that we can talk about because again, talk about frustration, I suppose. Because to me, this is the frustrating part of what's going on at the minute, right? Now, again, something that we've discussed openly and publicly on this platform, where we talk about players coming in. See if I can increase that. I can't, unfortunately. And this is TDR talking about Giorgio Scalvini's flaw that Newcastle United are double checking before pursuing the 21-year-old. And it goes on to talk about Atalanta and Scalvini's injury problems. And this is something, like I say, when we were first linked with this player, right? And I can't remember how many weeks ago that was now. We all said, are they really, are they concerned at all at this person's injury problems that, he seems to have picked up back to back injuries over a period of time since he's broke into the Atalanta team. And now all of a sudden it seems as though, we are turning our back on this potential deal because of that said reason. Why do you think it takes them so long to turn away? Are they looking at the likes of Bunce to actually have a look at this lad's issues and maybe come up with some ideas as realistic ideas of how to keep a player that seems to be made of glass out of the mire? So it's an interesting one.
It was not very. It said basically there was a comment in the forum that said Newcastle have pulled out of the Scalvini option due to his injuries. But that's today saying Newcastle United are double checking.
Yeah.
Before pursuing the 21-year-old.
That's what I just said. Is that them talking to Bunce and saying, is this lad going to be an issue? But how would he know?
Understands that Newcastle United have been working on a deal to sign Atlanta defender Giorgio Scalvini, but they have one concern about him, which is his injuries. And quite right that they should have concerns about his injuries, because if you're going to go and pay 50 million quid for a player who suddenly ends up the whole season on the treatment table, that's 50 million quid you've thrown away. So I'm quite right that there should be double checking.
Absolutely. But like I said, why wait till now, Win? That's what I said. This is what frustrates fans now, isn't it? Because like I said, this isn't a new thing. They've obviously known about his injury issues previously. You've got the same issue as me by the looks of it. It is very small, isn't it, when it comes upon the screen? I question. This is what I said. This is why I question why they have these issues and why it takes them so long to get over the line. There you go. And that's what I said. You can understand why there's so many people on the other side of the fence now pointing a finger of blame at the current setup that are trying to bring these players in.
Like I say, I don't say that the only thing that we do know, because it's been reported again by multiple reputable sources, as in Keith Downey, Craig Hope, who are saying that the current transfer team, for want of a better expression, is only able to concentrate on one. Now they are saying one target. I believe they've got multiple targets, but they're only able to concentrate on one negotiation at the same time. So they, Scalvini's went on the back burner whilst we've been pursuing Ekitike, who in turn was on the back burner whilst we were pursuing, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're so limited there, that's why we're having to do them one step at a time.
Yeah. It is. I agree. It just frustrates me and infuriates me to think that they're doing it now, rather than we've been linked with the player. Let's stick with this player. Let's get the background of him before we open this up to the journos and viewerland, for us all to have a deep dive on, and see if there's any value in pursuing this.
I'll tell you what I would do under the circumstances. I would just agree if we agree the 50 million with Atalanta, who by the way have got no money issues, don't need to sell. So we'll pay top dollar, and we agree the terms with the player, and then we'll have a medical. Because obviously all of that will be subject to the
Subject
medical.
to the medical, yeah, exactly.
So then we'll have the medical. And if we discover during the medical process that, oh, this is a bit iffy, then we'll knock it on the head for those medical reasons.
Yeah, yeah. It's just about the time saga, then, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
But like I say, that's the current climate, and obviously the next one I suppose we can go into is the links to players at this present moment in time. So these are the latest transfer rumours. Mika Bierith, who we've already talked about, is amongst the Premier League clubs interested in Monaco striker Mika Bierith. He could leave Monaco, and I think he's somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 million. And there we go, Tosin Adarabiayo, as Chris would say, Adarabiayo, yo. He is, offers around 30 million. Again, we said this guy going to Chelsea because of the money, and he sat out of the team for such a long time, and now he's questioning whether he should move on after the season at Chelsea. Obviously, the rumour's still going on that Alexander Isak is looking and demanding a salary, 350,000 or 300,000 a week. He's there, and there's still links to Liverpool, who believe it to be coming in with a bid of around 130,000 in the very near future. And again, when you think of Liverpool haven't been in the transfer market for a couple of seasons, they have got the money behind them now, and it seems the wage budget, because of the players that they're getting rid of, to actually come in at the 11th hour. So again, this is what I said. It seems as though Alexander Isak holds all the ammunition at this present moment in time, going forward. And Yohan Wissa, again, the pursuit, the 25 million bid was rejected, and it looks as though they are looking at going in for the second bid at around about the 30 million mark, according to the rumours. And that should, according again to the rumours, be enough to get Yohan Wissa our way. And the reasons why I say that is because he has returned home, and talking to representatives at Brentford about a move to Newcastle. And again, this is coming from a player who wants to move, potentially, and according to the rumours. Like I say, we know nothing. But again, I think...
I come from Barcelona.
I come from Barcelona.
I know
exactly.
nothing.
It is going to be interesting. But like I say, I look back at the Coutinho. Again, it was mentioned with you guys on channel with Liverpool when they sold him, and they used the money very wisely. And I think again, it's about having faith in whether we can or can't use that money.
That lovely cartoon you opened the show with.
And I'm going to end the cartoon, I think. It is a very, very strange one, because, like I say, going forward, do we see ourselves?
Is it ideal? Definitely not.
No.
I think everyone can agree with that.
And if
is it time to panic, Mr. Mannering? Definitely not.
Yeah, and just for the viewers out there, the buzz is waiting for them over in Singapore. It's very nice as well. Decorated, very lovely. The official supporters club supports the Newcastle United Supporters Club Singapore, and at the front it's War Bus. Love that. So there you go. Like I say, as soon as it's Foxy saying Tosin did well at Chelsea, played 41 games, won trophies, world champion. He got a lot of abuse for joining them instead of us. Yeah, it's like I said, it's funny how players will always go to win something. And that's what I said, at this present moment in time, as much as we can look at being probably the best season for us over the last 70 years, it's still a very long way off what others can offer. But that's it.
While the let's see if I can get this on here. While the bus is waiting for the players in Singapore, There's the Toon Army outside the Penny Black and the Victorian London pub.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Time to panic if Isaac doesn't sign. Yeah, it's like I said, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, I think, going forward now, because at the end of the day, you know, it could be 2 bloody strikers that we need. Well, watch this space. Again, tomorrow it'll be, I think Chris is at work, so it'll be me and the rest of the gang. And again, on Friday, on my birthday, how dedicated am I? I will be with you again. So tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I think we are. Tomorrow, if come and join me then. And on Friday, 2:15 again, I'll be here, probably on my own. So please come and join me.
Chris was talking about maybe a members only show tonight at 11 o'clock.
Oh, there you go. So those that have become a new member, there you go. You can. I will be live again at 12 p.m. tomorrow, says Chris. So Chris is going to be doing a solo duo with. I don't know whether anybody else is going to be jumping on board. Is Win going to Singapore? Said Foxy. Good on the buzz.
Sadly not.
No, I'd love to be there. Yes, solo. Chris
That's
will be
all
solo
on me.
tomorrow
I
at 12.
haven't been anywhere east.
No,
You know,
nor me. It's somewhere I haven't explored.
In the Pacific. I've never been anywhere in the Pacific.
So once again, thanks everybody that has given very kindly and generously.
And Bush, we've hit 150 likes.
Brilliant. Barney Mills for becoming a member. Terry Thomas, Ian Fleming, Centurion, and 84. Thank you so much for gifting and becoming members. And again, welcome and thank you for everybody that smashed that like button. It just helps us get forward as a team, if you like. But until the next one, it's a goodbye from him.
And
Oh,
it's a
he's
goodbye.
gone over there now.
Oh, you
see,
see,
you've confused us now.
Goodbye from him.
Yeah, how are? Come on.
How are the lads?
Lasses and bairns. See you on the next one, team.
How?